Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Listen, I want to just say happy Monday to everybody. I don't know if everybody's having a happy Monday, but I know I'm having a happy Monday. It's the end of my work day, the beginning of ministry day, right? So I'm always doing busy from one thing to the next. So, but happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had an awesome weekend. Hope you just was amazing over the weekend. Hope you got some rest. Because I know sometimes we don't rest over our weekends. I know I didn't get a chance to rest this weekend, but because I was busy doing a lot of stuff. But it is okay because I like being busy, right? Because the out of mind is the devil's workshop. So we are here this evening. Your girl, myself, Evangelist Nikki, we are here tonight again for another prayer for marriages. So we just want to say welcome to those of you on Facebook. Welcome to those of you that are on Zoom. Welcome to those of you that are on YouTube. Welcome. Listen, we're going to do this early, right? If you have not yet subscribed to Marcia Baker Ministries YouTube channel, please go over there, like, share, and subscribe. Also, we have a page, Prayer for Marriages. Go over there and like our page so you can keep up with what we're having. All right. So good evening. This is yours truly, Marcia Baker, Evangelist in the Kingdom, and my co-host, co-anchor, partner. I'm not gonna say a partner in crime, partner in helping to navigate us through this marriage, this thing called marriage journey, the happy marriage journey, the successful marriage journey. Yours truly, Evangelist Nikki McKenzie, is here this afternoon. She's not in the background tonight. She's here full-fledged, live and in living color. And we got a hot topic to talk to you all about tonight, right? So good evening again to all of you. Listen, type your name in the chat so we can shout you out. Tell us where you're watching from, looking from. And if you're looking at this and it's a replay, just put hashtag replay, hashtag prayer for marriages, right? Because we just want to get the algorithm going. A lot of people say, oh, I don't get when you go live. So just hit hashtag prayer for marriages and like and share. All right. So tonight we have a hot topic. Are your expectations realistic? Now, we all have expectations, right? We all have expectations, and sometimes our expectations are not reasonable, nor are they real, and they're unrealistic, right? And so we've got to make sure that what we're doing is realistic. Now, Evangelist Nikki's going to lead this off. I'm just here to help out in the forefront background, but she's going to be going in on this topic, right? Our expectations, so many times, we believe it's best. Some persons believe it's not to expect anything from your partner, but that's unrealistic, right? Just to avoid being let down. But listen, we need to let stuff know what are your expectations and make sure they're realistic. So Evangelist Nikki is going to divulge into it. So because I want her to have enough time to just go ahead and explain to us and tell us what we need to do and where our real expectations are not realistic, if they're too unrealistic, or they're just flat out unreasonable. All right. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Are your expectations realistic? Now, ladies, come on. We can have some expectations that are woo-wee, right? So we're going to, without further ado, I'm going to present our own Evangelist Nikki McKenzie. Over to you, Evangelist.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. And I know we had a while, I think it's probably 2 months or more. Y'all don't quote me on that. Check the replay that we debunk. We divulge and dissect trust issues, right? So trust issue was a phenomenal series that we had going. So thank you guys for your feedback and stuff that you want us to talk about to help us and things that we struggle with and how we can be better and how we can be whole and be our whole awesome self. So thank you guys for that topic now today we're shifting gears. Evangelist said, yes, we're shifting gear today. We're starting a new topic today. Hopefully it might be just for today. We on something next week, but who knows? Because we're here only for half an hour, right? So let's see how we end up tonight. We might be able to go through all the points. If not, we'll pick up next week. So our topic tonight, new topic, yes, tonight, as Evangelist alluded to earlier, expectations. Yes, we all have them. Even though a lot of folks said, expectation leads to disappointment. Disappointment leads to division. But normally, if it's not made known, and y'all know my stance, relationship don't fail when you get in it, right? It fails before, because if you have communication issues, because a lot of the issues that arise in relationships stem from communication. So as Evangelist said, expectation. Do you have realistic expectation for your partner, or are they unrealistic? And this goes both ways in all different type of relationship, but I guess this platform is prior for marriage, so we're going to be more speaking to the marriage folks. And again, you can tailor it if you're single or friendship, whatever relationship. But tonight, since it's prior for marriages, and our aim and our goal is to foster healthy relationship, by saving one couple at a time, one family at a time. So we want to help us tonight, right? We all have expectations. We expect the sun to rise and the season to change. Listen, if you live in Georgia like myself, we have an expectation that we will encounter all 4 seasons in one day. This is the only state I know that you can expect all seasons in one day, okay? And that's Georgia for you. We expect, for some of us, we expect Amazon to deliver our packages on time. Same day delivery. You order in the morning, you expect to show up, right? So we have all different type of expectation. We base our expectation really on our personal experience. What that means, our childhood, how we were raised, our caregivers, the people that raised us, right? The environment that we grow up in. It helps shape our expectation. And our experience growing up in our younger years, it plays out in our relationship, believe it or not. So, or even your previous relationship, there was different expectation. You come in with this relationship and you expect this person to be the same or operate similar to what it was before without having that conversation with that person of what you expected. Someone did a study, I think the National Survey of America did a study, and it found out that 45%, it's almost 50% of divorce responded said unrealistic expectation contributing to ending their marriage. Like I said, a lot of folks said expectation lead to disappointment lead to division. And we don't want that. We want to be able to set realistic expectation. Because if you can foster the expectation or execute on the expectation you're expecting from your partner, you should already know that's unrealistic right there. Okay, so we're going to take a look tonight and what are realistic expectation versus unrealistic expectation. And this is not the entire list because obviously we're only here for 30 minutes, right? So I'm just going to give you like the major ones that we notice. So the first step is to identify what our expectations are. And the next step is to recognize what is realistic and what isn't, right? So we want to start out first. Realistic expectation, what is it? Realistic expectation are those that can be met. You can discuss them and agree about them. So it's not something you foster in your head. It's not something you see in a Hollywood movie, right? It's something that you have a conversation with your person and discuss and come to an agreement. Sometimes it might be, no, they don't want it. The answer might be maybe, might be, we're not ready to do that right now. But if you're going there and you needed a yes, that's unrealistic because even sometimes we can't even commit to ourselves, right? So some realistic expectation requires compromise, where a lot of folks this is how I stand. And I'm not talking about your deal breakers and your boundaries and stuff like that. Okay. And these could be expectation around household chores, intimacy, sex, right? And finances, among other things. Like I said, this is not an extensive list. It's just for time. We're going to just condense the top priority or the top expectation that we see common across relationships in marriages, right? So here's an example of realistic expectation: sharing responsibility around the house. Remember, marriage is a partnership. So if you expect your partner or your spouse to take out the garbage or help you with the dishes or help you preparing the meal or help you with the lunch, but you have never said it, and you're walking around, slamming the pot, complaining about the household chores, and you'd never verbalize that expectation with that person, right? Then you're going to have issues. But when you sit down and make these realistic expectations that you share the chores, that's realistic. That's something can be met. But you have to have that dialogue with that person that, listen, we are going to be taking responsibility for the chores around the house and identify each other's roles. And it's interchangeable. It's not written in stone, right? You can always change because people do grow, life happen, right? Sometimes you might be the one doing the laundry or your spouse doing the laundry. You might be the one cooking, right? While one is doing the vacuuming. You have to have that conversation to make it work. Because what? These are realistic expectations. But however, you have to have that conversation. You cannot just assume it's in your head and they're supposed to know. Showing respect to each other. This is critical and it is fundamental. Because a lot of time when we have these unrealistic expectations in our head, we started acting out of pocket. We started with, running the mouth, saying stuff that does not build our spouse, right? So we have to show respect to each other, regardless of if they're able to meet that expectation that you set, if they disappoint you or not. It does not change the respect that you have for each other. Where a lot of people will start disrespecting their partner, their spouse, when things don't go their way. Speaking kindly, let your word be seasoned with grace and honey. One thing I always said, when you realize you want to run off the mouth and you want to speak stuff that's contrary to your belief, that's not in the Bible, right? Do a pulse check on yourself. Take a breath back. Take a step back. Would I speak to my boss like that? Would I speak to my spiritual leader like that, right? Would you speak to the people that your mentor, the people that you look up to like that? So a lot of times I say, well, he ain't acting right. So we start acting out of pocket. No, we have to speak kindly to our spouse regardless of how they treat us. Words of power, uplifting each other with words is life. We're building each other. A lot of time we don't address the situation because we have unrealistic expectation. But we can meet each other by speaking kindly to each other. Let your word, like I said, be seasoned with grace and honey. And if you have a problem speaking kindly to your spouse when you don't get what you want, think about when you're on the job and you don't get the promotion that you want, when you don't get the raise that you want. Or even if you're in church and you wanted a promotion in church or you did something in church, you're not going to talk to your leader, your spiritual leader, with disrespect. You still show them grace. You still affirm them. You still speak kindly to them. We need to have that same mentality. That is something that is realistic that we have control over. And this is a big one that I see a lot. Because this is one of the things a lot some folks struggle with, saying I love you often, right? It might be I love you, the person like to hear, the person might hear, I appreciate you. The person, especially if their love language is affirmation, right? It might be I love you for some folks. For some folks, they wake up every day, they have a conversation. At the end of the conversation, if they're on the phone or so forth, they always said, I love you. That means something to a lot of folks, where some folks might want to hear, I appreciate you. You mean so much to me. Thank you. So these are expectations that we ourselves have control over. These are realistic because we all are capable of doing these things. You can say, saying I love you to your spouse, like I said, based on their love language, it means a lot to a lot of folks who love language is affirmation. And even if it's not, it doesn't hurt to say I love you before they end that phone call. It doesn't hurt to say I love you when you're leaving the house because it might be the last time you see that person. So these are some realistic expectations that we have control over. It has nothing to do with our spouse. This is all in our control. Trusting each other. And like I said, we just finished that 2 months, series on trust, right? So if you miss any of those, there's so much out there. You can catch the replay and YouTube or on Facebook, right? Trust is essential. If trust is broken, work on repairing and healing. Trust doesn't happen when you just got into the relationship. The issue was there. It just magnified now when you're in the relationship. Supporting each other's dream. These are realistic expectations. However, again, you have to know what your partner dreams are. See, our dreams are often different. Sometimes it might be similar, sometimes it might be the same. But whatever the dream is, you guys have to be able to work together to support each other. Encourage each other to chase their own dream. Don't center your life around your partner. We are independent and interdependent. And this is what most of the men are saying, that they get into a relationship with this assumption is that, they won't hear no. I have a headache, the shop is locked, or I'm tired, all of that. Right? That's unrealistic. If you get in a relationship and you expect, to have sex every day, life happen. It might be how it started off. Intimacy every day, that might be how it started off. What if your partner is working away from home? What if they work night shift and you work day shift? You now have to be able to work together to build that connection. Even if you have to schedule it, you have to work together to be able to develop a level of intimacy where one is not feeling that they're being neglected. So if the expectation was we have 7 days, 8 days a week, life happened. You have to be able to adjust. It's unrealistic to expect your partner to be able to be there when they work away from home, right? So that's unrealistic. What is realistic is there's a shift. Have that conversation, right? Discuss what will work now with the new normal that you have. Because some people say, oh, he's not available like we used to, but what changed? The realistic is expectation is every time there's a shift, we will sit down, we'll discuss, and we'll work together on a new normal. See, you have a satisfying sexual connection. It is fair to expect there's work, there's family, there is illness, there is traffic, there is different stressor that might deviate from what you guys have agreed on. However, it's up to that partner when that shift change to have that conversation so it doesn't come off as unrealistic. All right, so those are some of the majority takeaway we got from realistic. What is realistic? How can it be met? What do you have in your control to enable these realistic expectations to be attained? And like I said, this is not something you put on your partner. It's something that you yourself have to be able. First, can you meet them by yourself? Or are you able to execute on it before you put it on your partner? How we do that is have those healthy conversations. Somebody said, okay, what about those unrealistic expectations? Oh, yeah. We're going to shift gears. So those were a few of the realistic. We're going to stop there for time constraint. We're going to get into a few unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations are the ones we may not say out loud. The movie, the fairy tale, like I said, the whole picture that you paint in your head that only you alone have access to. They're the unspoken ones. We somehow expect our spouse to read our minds and know what we want and how we want it done. Like knowing exactly how, glory to God, to make us happy. Or this unrealistic expectation that we want our spouse, we put that responsibility on our spouse that they're responsible for our happiness. That's unrealistic. See, you alone are responsible for your happiness. You can't put that responsibility on someone else or anyone else. It is unattainable because what you're saying, before I met you, I was unhappy. So I come empty and you got to pour into me, fill me up with happiness. So what you're telling that person, if they're not in your life, you will never be happy. And my sense is relationship, you come happy and your spouse enhance your happiness by making you happier. So you cannot come empty and expect your spouse to make you happy. No, they don't have that power. It's an inside job. That's unrealistic when you're say, oh, I'm not happy anymore. Well, guess what? No one in this world can make you happy. It's an inside job. And until you can find your place of happiness within, then you'll be able to make someone else happier. Because you know, these people who are not happy with themselves, they go make you unhappy because that's all they have to give. So if you're expecting your spouse to make you happy, that is unrealistic. Your spouse will complete you. Those are some of the ones I hear all the time. This is unrealistic. Your spouse does not complete you. Your spouse is supposed to complement you. But they don't complete you. They can. So that's unrealistic. The person you marry will never change. That's another one. The person you marry will never change. And you hear the saying, oh, he changed, she changed. They're not the person I marry anymore. What happened? See, we all change and grow. That's part of life. Hopefully we grow in a healthy way together. But change is inevitable. Change for the better. Growing together towards your goals. That is realistic. But not expecting the person to change, that's unrealistic. Everyone changed. Maturity. The person you were a year ago, you're not that person today. Because if you're not growing, you're stagnant. That's not healthy. Another myth is unrealistic expectation is your spouse's life should revolve around you. See, each of us is an individual. Like I said, we are individual beings, but when we get married, we're still individual and interdependent. A marriage made up of two individuals loving and caring for one another. So we need our me time. We need our own time to be able to unwind, do our own thing that we like to do before we got married. So a lot of people stop that when they get married and they center their life around their spouse. They stop their hobbies. They stop doing their exercise. They stop eating right. They spend every waking moment monitoring your spouse. What you doing? Where you going? Tracking them all over. Oh, you're not here by 5 minutes. You're late. It's a problem. You stuck in traffic. They checking. Are you sure? That's not healthy. Because if you're busy doing the things that you like to do, you don't have. I always tell folks, if you have so many times to be monitoring your spouse, you're not working on your purpose. You're not working on your goal. You're not working on your vision. You got too many idle times. And guess what they said with idle time? The devil have works for idle land. But when a person is working on their goal, working on their purpose, and is fulfilling what they're doing, when you and your spouse come together, you get to compliment each other. You get to affirm each other. And you have something to talk about. Another unrealistic myth is another unrealistic myth is all of your time should be spent together. We all have different interests, like I said, and that's okay. Your spouse shouldn't completely ignore you and not spend any time with you. But like folks like me and Evangelist Baker, our love language is quality time. For us out there who understand quality time, we understand quality time. Okay? But it's okay to have other interests and hobbies, right? But when we do come together, whatever time we set apart to come together, even if it's just 5 minutes out of the day, especially when my husband is traveling, if it's just 5 minutes out of the day and that's our time, that's our time. I don't need to be put on hold. I don't need to be, listen, we take our quality time serious. But we're not saying give us all 24 hours of your attention. We're saying the time that you set apart for us, it has to be about us. It's not about work, it's not about the kids, not about the bills, not about the chores. It's about us, even if it's just 60 seconds, undivided. When people are unrealistic and expect every moment, you got a free time, it's about each other. No, that's unrealistic. You have to schedule time based on your spouse's schedule. If they're that type of person and they're busy, of when you guys would come together to spend time together and make it count. for time constraint, I'm gonna wrap up at this one. Your way is the right way. In marriage requires compromise from two different persons with different background and experiences. Compromise in marriage is a beautiful thing. We're not saying compromise against that is your core value. Compromise against your character. No, that's unrealistic. Compromise and things that make you win. Each other successful, each other growing together. Expecting your partner, I think 7:26. I'm checking time, evangelist. I'm gonna stop at this one. Expecting your partner to be always romantic or in the mood. A lot of men don't like that because men come and expect women should be available all the time. And I'm like, that's unrealistic because men can't be available all the time either. They're not in the mood all the time either. So assuming them to be romantic all the time, which some of us women have, expect our spouse to be romantic and Mr. Romeo all the time, outside of the normal candlelit dinner and roses every now and then, right? Apart from those, consider, the little gesture that they do. They might prepare your favorite dish. They might bring you lunch. They might bring you your favorite chocolate. They might, like my husband, sometimes he's traveling, I love candle. He'll find some different scent and he'll bring it and surprise me, right? Those are part of building that romantic connection to get you into mood. But we need to be realistic by having those conversations. Talk to your partner. Don't assume so-and-so used to bring me roses and now you don't. It might not be your love language. I appreciate when my husband sends me surprises roses every now and then. But what's more important to me for my love language is quality time and physical touch. Those are my top two. Everything else is a bonus. And I compliment him on this and I'm grateful. But why we set those expectations? Because a lot of time we get disappointed with these unrealistic expectations. Like I said, we do not verbalize it. So let's have those conversations. Revisit. Set time. If you have to calendar your spouse in for a date night. For some folks, date night is Netflix and chill, right? Right, hubby? For me, I like the outdoors. I like to go walking. I might walk on the beach or walk by the pool or the pond or something. I love nature. Have that conversation with your person. Don't expect all the time you want to go out to a restaurant and they say, okay, I just want to Netflix and chill. Compromise. This week it might be Netflix and chill. Next week you might want to go out to a restaurant, or the next week you want to just go for a walk around your community, holding hand and just taking in nature. How they gonna know that? When you said, oh, they're supposed to know, they see me going walking all the time. They always see me like to go out. No. Don't assume. Assume is unrealistic expectation. So I know I said quite a lot and I know I was going a bit fast. But I hope something said tonight that we examine ourselves. Differentiate in your own self. List it out. Voice note it to your own self. Unrealistic expectation versus realistic expectation. Think about it this way. If you aren't able to meet that expectation for your own self, then it's unrealistic. And I'll sign off there. Back to you, Evangelist.
Thank you so much, Sen. Our sessions are short and they're short on purpose, just to wet your whistle and so you come back for more. We'll be back next week for part 2 because I'm sure we can divulge further. I like what she says about, and I think somebody else uttered it, that our spouse does not make us happy. It does. It does not. They do not. The momtrepreneur on YouTube says, when we're happy from within, it will never be a fleeting emotion, and that is so true. And
true.
And you said it as well, Evangelist Nikki. Our spouse is not going to make you happy. Your husband will never make you happy. Your wife will never make you happy. If you are not already happy, spouse cannot do it. And that's an unrealistic expectation. And so we're going to come back next week and we're going to divulge into that some more, because I know a lot of you have questions, you have comments. Please feel free to make your comments, post your comments, inbox us, email us your comments, because a lot of times Evangelist Nikki said, we expect our spouse to read our minds and know what we're thinking. And even if they have discernment on 1,000, they will never be able to read your mind because they'll get something wrong and you will be upset. So let's have that communication, effective communication, so we will not be disappointed when our expectations are unrealistic and unreasonable. Amen. And so we're talking about, if you have not yet joined our Thursday night community, we're talking about finding yourself to a failed relationship. And a lot of times when our relationship fails because our unrealistic expectations are not met and we have lost ourselves and our spouses our whole entire world. We move and live because of them and by them. And so when something happens, could be the end of the relationship or a death, we are lost. So join us on Thursday night on Before You Say I Do for find, learning how to find yourself, to pick yourself up. Where to go from here after a failed relationship or after a death. All right. Also, I want to take the time to invite everyone to register for Prayer Walk 2. It's next Tuesday. We begin next Tuesday. And we're going to be having some awesome topic. One topic that I want to emphasize that we're going to divulge into a lot is, I hear a lot of people talking about strongholds. And we're going to talk about identifying and learning how to identify strongholds and know how to pull them down. All right. Know the scripture about pulling down strongholds, right? Every imagination and everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. You want to be in that teaching, 8-week teaching we're going to be doing on identifying and pulling down strongholds, enduring hardship as a good soldier, learning and finding your spiritual gifts and their operation, and our weapons, our spiritual weapons, and knowing how to use them. All right. So if you have not already done, please email us at marciabakerministries@gmail.com for more information. Listen, Evangelist Nikki, awesome job as usual. Are your expectations realistic? Now, ladies, we have some unrealistic expectations, right? So we want to come back next week. We thank you for joining us. If you have not already done so, please go like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Like, share, also like our page on Facebook. Also share this broadcast because somebody's expectations are not a reality. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. God bless you. God keep you. We love you. See you on next Monday. Or if you want to join in our community on Thursday night on Before You Say I Do, you can join in. It's not streamed live on Facebook nor YouTube. It's strictly on Zoom. Again, Evangelist Nikki, awesome job as usual. See you next week for part 2. God bless you in Jesus' name.